So I have this principle of if I'm going for a clinical exam, now this is like I'm exposing
It's
some of the
secret,
things.
guys.
So yes.
Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel. My name is Jennifer Ohanwe, and on today's video we're talking about failure. Obviously, I'm not the only one who is going to be talking about this. I have someone here with me who I'll be having the conversation with. And this person is someone really exceptional. He's someone that is considered a symbol of excellence. I think it's safe to say that in medical school. However, behind the scenes, I mean, there are a number of things that play out behind the scenes that we do not know, right? So I brought him here to tell us what it's been like, and he's going to be sharing his experiences, some of his failures. And if you're someone here who is struggling with failure, or you failed in a couple of things and you're beginning to think that there is something inherently wrong with you, or that you're not as good as you imagine yourself to be, he's going to be sharing his experience. I'm sure you're going to pick a couple of things that you can implement in your own life, in our own lives. I mean, of course, I would also be learning some things that I would also implement in my own life. So please, would you like to introduce yourself?
All right. Thank you, Jennifer, for having me. My name is Ikpotokin. I'm a medical doctor. Thank you. And I coach people. Yeah, I'm a certified life coach. I coach people.
I didn't know that part.
Yes, I am.
That's nice. That's nice.
So yeah, I've had the opportunity to interact with persons, mostly students, though, that have had issues at one point or the other, both within the school and outside the school environment. And so I'll be sharing just my contemplations from all of that experiences today to see how we can, talk about failure and address everything as regards that. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Just on the side, Dr. Gospel, yeah. Permit me to call you GP because that's what I'm used to calling you.
That's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine.
Okay. You graduated from medical school. How many distinctions did you make?
Okay, five.
Five, guys. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay. That's on the side. But have you failed at anything?
Okay. Yes. When people talk about failure, they sort of want to look at it more on the big platforms you get. And failure now, if we want to define it, people will say maybe it's the opposite of success, and success is the accomplishment of one's aims or purposes. So failure would mean one not accomplishing, the aim or purpose which one set out for. And failure in that sense can come in two ways. There is a kind of system standard failure, the one that is not dependent on you exactly per se. So let's say we're in school now and the college or whichever body is administering the exam sets a prerequisite standard.
Yeah.
That's a kind of failure. But there's also the failure that you judge for yourself.
That's not meeting up to this standard.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So, and this is the failure that we see day in, day out. So, for instance, let's say I want to wake up a particular time every day. As little as that is, you not meeting up with it in that instant, it was an aim you had. Or let's say you even setting a daily target. We're students just a few weeks ago, and you not meeting it, you're not happy when that happens. You feel this sense of pressure and everything. So in those little moments, those little things also count, as failures. We read about Thomas Edison, and how they say, oh, he tried several times before eventually 1,000 times. You get Michael Jordan will say he missed 9,000 shots in his career. He's still regarded as the greatest, of all time in basketball. But we see that those little failures also all come together and are just somewhere in the background behind the big success story that we all see. So daily, we all fail. Daily, every successful person, has an encounter with failure, week in, week out, and all of that.
I think what I understand from what she said is that failure actually happens on a daily basis.
Yes.
So when we don't take cognizance of those very tiny bits of it, let's say I have books I intend to read on a particular day, how many chapters of a book I want to read on a particular day, and I don't achieve it on that day, and I go on with the next day and I still don't achieve it, I'm already kind of setting myself up for a bigger failure, right? So
yes,
I don't necessarily have to wait for me to write an exam and fail the exam to know that, okay, I've failed in this exam. So those other tiny bits of life that we do not take seriously or that we don't really pay
Pays
so
so
much
much
attention to,
attention to
those are the things that eventually culminate to the bigger failure.
failure.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my view and my take on
Okay,
failure.
so have you failed on a big what there was a word you used?
System
Yes,
defined standard.
have you ever had a system defined
Okay,
kind of
yes.
failure? Would you
Yes.
like to share that
Yes.
experience?
That was after our third year. In year four, we call these things tests in medical school, but they
Yeah,
are
like
actually like
exams.
exams you get. So we wrote an exam, and I had here in medical school 50 is like the pass mark. And just humbly speaking, this is not me. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not It's not something I'm used to.
He's trying to say that he's not a 50 student. Like
Yeah,
he's
so
usually above 50. Like he doesn't set the standard like we have to score a
yeah, so
50.
so most times I set my aim maybe for 80s, and the rest. So this one time I had 43 over 100. Um yes, see, you can see Jennifer is laughing. so
I'm
yeah,
not laughing at him, I'm
so
just
so yeah, that's the one system, defined failure. Now I failed based on my personal aim. Also, judging from the results, I failed based on what the college would have considered a pass mark in that test. Now the interesting thing was the reaction. Yes, it just gave this feeling of sadness, but I knew I quickly had to move on from it. And then the dangerous thing in medical school is once people start having scores like that or average scores, it tends to make you want to settle for that level and not set a higher aim. So the first time someone has 50, it's now like, let me just try not to get below 50, or 60. Let me just try not to go below. And that's a wrong approach to failure. Once you start, looking on the downward axis, it just maybe would keep you pegged at that level, or you continually go down.
kind of use it as a yardstick and say, okay, now
Exactly.
that I've achieved 50, let me hold on to this
To that
50 so that
50.
I don't go below it. And rather than saying, okay, I want to reach, now I've reached 50, okay, how about I aim for 60 or
Or
70? And
70.
okay, I think I get what you're saying. But beyond academics, like, because I feel like most people who, especially if you're in the medical field, right, I feel like most people use the academics like as a yardstick to measure success. I also feel like it's important. I mean, we can't say my success in the future if I'm not succeeding where I am right now. But of course, there are also different parameters to measure success.
Measure
This is
success.
just like one of them when you talk about the board of examiners, the college saying, okay, you have to pass a certain score and all. But beyond the academic field, are there other types of failure you've encountered?
Okay.
I'm not usually eager on using the word failure because it
I
has a very
understand.
huge,
Yeah,
like it makes
I
it seem like
understand.
one grand thing. Failure is not a person, as we all know, it's more like an event. But I still really feel a bit uncomfortable using the word.
Using the
So
term.
outside medical school, outside the academic field, because I know that this is your area of excellence. The GP is a logo area, right? I know that this is his strong point, right? But beyond academics, right, are there other things that you've considered yourself not so successful at, things that you ventured into?
Okay, yeah. Okay. An example of that would be I've tried learning the piano. You get at some point because I just kind of liked the idea. I saw my dad plays it, so we had one in the house, and I tried for a while, and it wasn't working. Even up to now, when I still see people playing it, I'm like, guy,
Like, oh, like, how do
yeah,
you do
that
this?
should be, yes, that should be maybe you, or there's just that interest, I know, but I couldn't get it done at that particular point in time. Even when I went home during one of the holidays, I still tried again, and I was just like, well, maybe this one is not for you, kind of. Though I will still try again in future before I probably would eventually be like, okay, no, no, just leave music alone. So
Okay.
yeah, that was one encounter. And over the years too, there have been things I've maybe planned to do, but medical school can be very jealous.
Yes,
And
take
I will
your
set
time.
goals for the year. Yes, you meet some of them, but out of the extracurricular goals that one will have set, sometimes it's just barely 50 that is met, and in those instances you're not very happy because it now has to spill over maybe into the next year or something. So yeah, those are some of the other encounters. that
So
I've had.
sorry, I have to take you back to the academic field because this is really somewhere that you've laid precepts, I have to admit. Okay, so generally in a classroom, we know that there are high flyers and not everybody's on the same level, not everybody's on the same page. We'll be lying if we don't want to admit or accept that. How do you feel about people who are seemingly constantly at a certain level, at a certain point? Like maybe write a test and there are people that will score 80, 85, 70, and then there are also people who are seemingly going to be struggling to like pass the 50 mark. What do you think about them? Do you think there is something wrong with them? Do you think there is something wrong with their approach? Do you think like just what's your take? Like if you were going to talk to them, what was it that you would say to them?
Okay, so the choices of words here now, they matter. So I would not say I have a negative feeling about them, but like you said, what's my opinion? Sometimes it's kind of concern, even though I cannot approach them, but sometimes I feel like the person is doing well. It's not as though they have a special brain or something. They are just doing things differently. So the first thing that I've discovered, when we do research, we can extrapolate based
From
on,
yes,
yeah.
from
So
study sample to
having
sample.
interacted with junior colleagues and also just maybe a few persons closely, in our class when we were in school, I discovered that most times some persons do not have an aim. That's the first issue. So you see those people who are doing well, we interact when we talk. Maybe this person has a goal of, let's say, 85 over 100. The other person set 80. The other person probably set 90. Sometimes they can just set very high, stuff. And then these other persons, on getting to interact with them. So I asked a junior colleague, what was your score goal, for this exam? The person's like, oh, there's something like that. I'm like, okay, that's the first issue. When you don't have an aim, there is nothing for you to go after. There is no meaning for you to chase after. And so it's more like one is just chasing shadows. There
Just
is
going
no
with the tide,
yes,
seeing
yes,
how
there's
it
no,
is.
if the exam is very hard, that means the person is almost certain, to fail. And so this aim now, beyond the score goal will now help you break your plan sort of into a daily and weekly plan. Because if you're saying you want to get 90, for instance, that would mean you have to maybe know almost everything.
Everything.
In all the slides, you have to attend all the classes, you have to be in the word rounds and all of that. So you see those who are doing well, they have an aim, a higher aim, and then they sort of break it down into different parts. Now, for those who are not doing well, most times there is no aim. Then also, we come to the second level, which is knowledge. Now, knowledge in this sense comes in two ways. If you're having a goal, you need to know the cost of accomplishing that goal. So, first of all, what will it take for me to achieve this aim or goal? And then also, knowledge of the facts and all the pieces of information you would require. If it's
Yeah.
an exam now, that's what we're talking about. So, for the student that is not doing well consistently, and the student that is doing well consistently, you will discover that the high flyers probably have a lot of mentors they are talking to. So they are like 10
Mentorship.
steps ahead, even long before the semester starts. Me, I know I have, sometimes I talk to as much as 7 to 10 people. So I put all of this
So who are
together.
these kind of people?
So there are two categories of people I talk to. I
Yes.
talk to those who had receipts, and I talk to the very brilliant students in the class. So I get a balanced perspective. So talking to those who have receipts, the question is, okay, what do you think went wrong? And sometimes the answer is like, oh, I was just complacent. I did not take the clinical exams
Laid back.
seriously. It wasn't like they were not smart. Some people sometimes just become complacent, and when you're going to the stations, you're not putting in all the energy, as it were, into giving your best, in that particular setting. So that's, I speak to two categories of persons: those who had issues and those who um, also passed very well. It just helps me have
A
a
broader
complete,
view,
yeah, and a
yes, of
broader
what
view
it
of
is.
what it entails. So
Ah.
and then the next is application of the knowledge you've gotten. So now you have an aim.
Yeah.
Now you've acquired knowledge on what it will require for you to achieve that aim. You've also gathered enough, facts, the pieces of information you've read, you've studied your books, and everything. Now this comes to like more like wisdom. Sometimes we say wisdom is the right application of knowledge in a sense, because personally now, as a sort of mentor to students in medical school, sometimes I refrain from talking to some students. They may not understand. Okay, so yeah, I would explain. So I talked to this person in second year. Let's say I talked to 50 people. I'm being very honest now. Out of those 50 persons, when I'm speaking to them again at the end of the session, only about 5 persons would follow through what was said. And the others, they are quite honest. Oh, I did when they come, oh, I could not follow. I'm like, okay, why? Fine. Even myself, it's not everything that my mentors tell me I do. Yeah, sometimes you have to, edit and just maybe take different steps in some places, but at least 70% of what you've been told should be adhered to. Now, I see no return on investment because it
What
takes
do you
time.
tell them? What is this thing that you say to them that makes them?
Everything from how to approach the
Okay,
semester, the materials you need, the questions to expect, when you're going for the rounds, setting your daily objectives and all of that is a whole lot. So when they are coming and I'm like, did you do this? No. Did you do this? No. I don't feel excited going again. You get. So, but for those who did, I don't even wait for them to ask. I'm just very eager to, okay, this is what you need to do.
Are there still cases where people still follow through with these instructions and yet it doesn't really reflect on their results?
So knowledge-wise, yes, but application-wise, there's a clause there. So application-wise, now let me be more practical. So this student read very well, but got into the exam, or it's time to execute, but for some reasons just lost control, started panicking. Even if that student is very knowledgeable, the outcome of that exam would not reflect excellence. So it's not just about the reading and the preparation, the execution in the exam also counts. So some people go into the hall, quite very stuffy, but either poor time management or just being tense. For the clinical exams, for instance, imagine having to go station to station and you're just tensed everywhere, being disorganized and everything. It will not reflect the
or
true.
Even when you're answering the questions, you're not writing in an organized manner. You're just like pouring in everything in a very scattered.
So all these other factors come into play. So one can adhere to everything being said, but when it comes to the point of executing, there sort of becomes an issue. Now, sometimes also failure is not anyone's fault. That's the basic truth. Some people give their best. This is the one that sort of just goes out of your control in a sense, because I know students that have diligently read from beginning to the end. Sometimes it might be a missing script. Sometimes it might be not writing serial numbers or math numbers, And in life also, going outside academics, there are many reasons, why. Sometimes it can be bias. For those in their workplace, you might just have someone that doesn't like you and you did an interview. You probably are not even aware that maybe you scored so high in the interview, but the board, they just feel like, oh, we don't like this person. Do you get? So in that case, it might be that it was just a thing of time and chance. That season, it's difficult to accept. That's the truth, because we'll talk about the reaction, how people react to failure at some point. So let me not jump.
You said something about time and chance, right? So I wanted to ask, there are people who believe that, like what we are talking about academically, there are people who believe that some people are inherently very intelligent. With their genes that make them really stand out. Some people have even gone as far as saying that if you marry an intelligent woman, the intelligent gene, I haven't seen that study. That's why I'm talking about it like that. I haven't seen the research paper abstract that said, okay, these were the people we use for this study. But then I've been seeing some stuff online. The intelligence gene comes from the woman and all of that stuff. So do you think that there are people who are inherently very intelligent? Maybe their genes that make people really stand out? Because I'm asking this question because you could see two different people, and these two people, they dedicate the same amount of time in studying, right? And when they write an exam, they don't pass. Of course, I understand that there are other things that could play in, just like you're talking about the application, the way the exam went, the person's disposition to the exam. All these other things could also play a role. But beyond all these other things, do you think now, as you are, because there are also families that everybody in the family, they are high flyers, like from the first child to the second child. So you're beginning to think maybe it's in their gene or it's in their blood. So what do you think?
Okay, so in terms of intelligent quotient, now that's IQ.
IQ,
I
yeah.
know definitely there's a genetic role there,
Okay.
paternal, maternal, and all of that. But going beyond that, if you talk about families, for instance, now usually if you look at those families keenly, yes, the potential is there, but there is also the environment that enables that, consistent
Kind of
performance.
nurtures it and
Exactly.
allows it to
So
grow.
if you have your elder brother or elder sister did very well in a school and you're going to that school, there's already a kind of pressure on you to do well.
Yes.
And that pressure just sort of pushes you and gravitates you towards excellence.
Okay.
Possibly
Okay.
too, the parents also create the atmosphere. Oh, you don't work for too long in it. I know things that parents do just to make sure that their words or children are doing very well. Now, if you
You
want
wanted
to
to say something about you don't work for too long.
okay, like chores, house
Okay, okay,
chores,
okay,
they
okay.
regulate everything,
So you
possibly
can
even
have
get
enough
a
time to
help,
study.
and everything, just to make sure that some do home lessons, just to make sure that these children are doing very well. If we're coming home down now to the medical school, you can have two students, or generally any department, read the same number of hours, write the exam, and then they do the margin of difference in their performance is quite very much. Now, when it comes to academics, I think more importantly, before the active phase of read, there's something I tell my friends sometimes when they see me. I'm like, I'm preparing for the preparation. Now that's grammar. But what I'm trying to communicate to them most times is that 60% of the time, what I'm doing is I'm observing and I'm trying to sift out what it is that you need to know. So I have this principle of if I'm going for a clinical exam, now this is like I'm exposing some of the things.
Guys.
So yes, I should not be meeting any station for the first time. That's my principle. So now what that makes me do is, I need to know all the things that can come out in this exam.
Possibly come
Yes.
out.
So I will have history taking, I would have physical examination, I would have instrumentation, I would have communication stations, that's like counseling, I would have write down stations, So having identified all of this, now in each of them, the question is what history stations are likely to come out. So you make a list of all of them. What are the physical examinations likely to come out? You make a list of all of them. What instruments are they likely to ask? So you see, now this is where
so you're not just jumping in, oh God, I finished reading this textbook.
Exactly.
Like you're literally planning in every step along the way, because your exam is not just about the theoretical part. There is a whole lot to the exam. So I feel like the planning even takes
more time. It takes more time. So I can spend 2 weeks, and somebody's like, oh, I'm in my mind, well, all I'm doing now is not the active reading, it's just observation and putting things together so that when you have to hit the road running,
you're not just running.
Exactly. You're not running like a scalar quantity. It's like you're a vector quantity with direction.
Exactly.
And that's what making reference to the Holy Scriptures now, when Apostle Paul said, I walk circumspectly, and is not like chasing shadows or shadow boxing. He's going for specific goals. So this is the fact that sometimes distinguish the very excellent students from the mediocre students.
Like, I think this is really outstanding because it's not just study. Like, I remember talking with somebody and the person was like, it's not just to read. Do you even know what you're supposed to know? Like, it's easy to just get into a class and, oh God, give me material. You give them everything. And I think when you get into a new class, there's always this energy. People go gather materials, textbooks, past questions. Imagine just getting into the class, putting in all the effort and not knowing, like, you just enter your exam hall, enter for your viva, your clinicals, and your last.
Yeah, so that's the experience of some. Every station is a shock. Every question is like a shock. And you have these persons that it's just like maybe a walkover for them. They might come out of the hall and they are but then really
they'll be pretending like it's hard, but they know really
that it was more like a giveaway. And it's not because they were super intelligent. It's just that they knew what to prepare for.
The working smart
and they were
part,
ready. Yes, they were ready for it. There's that part of working hard, finishing the scheme good and fine. The most important thing now would be that at some point in this session, you want to go very specific.
I really appreciate having you on this video, and there's a lot that we've said. I don't even know how I'm going to. Maybe I'm going to have to like divide it into two parts or something. Thank you very much, Ikpotokin, for doing this. I hope you found this video very helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to my channel and share it with your friends, even if they are not medical students, but they are students. It's something that would also encourage anybody out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.